The following day dawned bright and clear over the kingdom of Adara. In her small home, Rachel woke early, her mind swirling with thoughts of the previous day's events. As she helped her father with the morning chores, she couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and apprehension about her upcoming visit to the royal gardens. "Papa," Rachel said as they worked side by side in their small vegetable patch, "what do you think of all this?" Mr. Samuel paused, wiping sweat from his brow. "It's a great opportunity, my dear, but remember, a crown doesn't make a man. Look for kindness, for honor." Rachel nodded, grateful for her father's wisdom. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, she retreated indoors to prepare for her outing with Prince Chidi. Meanwhile, at the palace, a storm was brewing. Queen Deborah paced furiously in her chambers, her face contorted with anger. "That fool Chidi," she hissed to Prince Oho, who sat watching his mother with a mixture of amusement and irritation. "He's trying to outmaneuver us with his false modesty and gentle ways." Oho leaned back, a confident smirk on his face. "Let him try, mother. Rachel will soon see that real power is far more attractive than meek kindness." Queen Deborah stopped pacing, a sly look crossing her face. "Perhaps we shouldn't leave it to chance, my son. I have connections in the village. We could arrange for a little accident to befall our dear Prince Chidi." For a moment, a flicker of hesitation crossed Oho's face. Then it was gone, replaced by cold determination. "Do what you must, mother. The throne will be mine." As this dark plot was being hatched, Prince Chidi was making his way to Rachel's home. He had opted to walk again, enjoying the morning air and the chance to interact with the villagers along the way. Rachel was waiting outside when he arrived, dressed in a simple but pretty dress, her long hair braided with wildflowers. "Good morning, Rachel," Chidi said warmly. "You look lovely." Rachel blushed slightly. "Thank you, Your Highness, and thank you for walking here. It's a beautiful morning for it." As they set off towards the palace, Chidi insisted that Rachel call him by his name. Their conversation flowed easily, touching on everything from the best way to grow tomatoes to their favorite childhood stories. When they reached the royal gardens, Rachel gasped in awe. Flowers of every color imaginable bloomed in carefully tended beds, while fruit trees heavy with ripe produce lined the paths. "It's beautiful," Rachel breathed. Chidi smiled, pleased by her reaction. "I'm glad you like it. I often come here to think or to escape the pressures of palace life." As they walked, Chidi pointed out his favorite spots: a quiet pond where water lilies bloomed, a bench beneath a weeping willow where he liked to read. Rachel found herself increasingly charmed by his gentle nature and genuine interest in her thoughts and opinions. "Chidi," she said as they sat on the bench, "may I ask you something?" "Of course," he replied. "Why are you doing this? Pursuing marriage because of your father's decree?" Chidi was quiet for a moment, considering his words carefully. "To be honest, Rachel, I struggled with it at first. The idea of marrying for political reasons didn't sit well with me. But then I realized that while the circumstances might be unusual, it doesn't mean that real love can't grow from it." Rachel nodded, touched by his honesty. As they continued their tour of the gardens, she found herself relaxing in his company, laughing at his jokes and sharing her own stories. However, their peaceful outing was about to be disrupted. Unbeknownst to them, one of Queen Deborah's spies had been following them. As Chidi reached up to pluck a ripe apple for Rachel, the spy saw his chance. He loosed a stone from a slingshot, aimed at Chidi's head. But fate intervened. At that very moment, Rachel spotted a beautiful butterfly and exclaimed, causing Chidi to turn. The stone whizzed past his ear, missing him by inches. "What was that?" Rachel gasped, startled by the sound. Chidi frowned, scanning the area. "I'm not sure. Perhaps a bird. Are you all right?" Rachel nodded, but the peaceful mood of their outing had been broken. Chidi, ever perceptive, noticed her discomfort. "Would you like to head back?" he asked gently. "Yes, please," Rachel replied, suddenly eager to be home. As they walked back to her village, Chidi couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. He made a mental note to speak with the palace guards about increasing security in the gardens. When they reached Rachel's home, Chidi took her hand gently. "Thank you for today, Rachel. I enjoyed our time together very much." Rachel smiled, her earlier unease fading in the warmth of his gaze. "So did I, Chidi. Thank you for showing me the gardens." As Chidi turned to leave, Mr. Samuel emerged from the house. "Your Highness," he called, "won't you stay for dinner? It's not much, but we'd be honored." Chidi's face lit up. "I'd love to, if it's not too much trouble." Inside, as Rachel and her father prepared a simple but hearty meal, Chidi insisted on helping. Soon, the small kitchen was filled with laughter as Chidi shared funny stories about his cooking mishaps in the palace. As they sat down to eat, Rachel couldn't help but contrast this comfortable, intimate dinner with the opulent display Oho had put on the day before. She found herself increasingly drawn to Chidi's humility and genuine warmth. However, their pleasant evening was about to be interrupted. Just as they were finishing their meal, a commotion outside caught their attention. Rachel opened the door to find Prince Oho dismounting from his horse, a large entourage behind him. "Rachel, my dear," Oho called out, his voice dripping with false concern. "I heard about the incident in the gardens. I came to ensure you were unharmed." Chidi appeared behind Rachel, his expression wary. "Brother, what are you talking about?" Oho's eyes narrowed at the sight of Chidi. "Why, the attack, of course. Surely you told Rachel about the danger she was in." Rachel turned to Chidi, confusion written across her face. "Attack? What is he talking about?" Chidi shook his head, bewildered. "I don't know. There was a strange sound in the gardens." "But a sound?" Oho scoffed. "It was an assassin's stone, brother. It nearly took your head off. Or were you too busy wooing Rachel to notice the danger you put her in?" Rachel's head was spinning. An assassin? Had she really been in danger? Oho stepped forward, taking Rachel's hand. "My dear, you must see now how unsafe it is outside the palace. Come with me, where I can protect you properly." Chidi's voice was calm but firm. "Oho, you're frightening her unnecessarily. Rachel, I assure you, if I had thought for a moment you were in any danger, I would have told you immediately." "Ha!" Rachel looked between the two princes, torn. Oho's words painted a picture of lurking danger, while Chidi's steady presence offered comfort and safety of a different kind. Mr. Samuel, who had been watching the exchange with growing concern, finally spoke up. "Your Highnesses, it's late. Perhaps we could continue this discussion tomorrow when everyone is calmer." Oho looked like he wanted to argue, but a pleading look from Rachel made him relent. "Very well. But Rachel, please consider my offer. Your safety is paramount." As the princes departed, Oho with his entourage and Chidi on foot, Rachel sank into a chair, her mind reeling from the day's events. "Papa," she said softly, "what am I going to do?" Mr. Samuel sat beside her, patting her hand gently. "Follow your heart, my dear. It will guide you true." But as Rachel prepared for bed that night, she found her heart more conflicted than ever. Oho offered protection and a life of luxury, while Chidi promised companionship and genuine affection. And looming over it all was the knowledge that her choice would determine the future of Adara. As she drifted off to sleep, Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of her troubles. In the palace, Queen Deborah was already plotting her next move, determined to secure the crown for her son at any cost. The quiet kingdom of Adara was about to become embroiled in a battle of love, ambition, and the true meaning of leadership. As dawn broke over Adara, the kingdom buzzed with gossip. Word of the assassination attempt in the royal gardens had spread like wildfire, growing more exaggerated with each retelling. By breakfast time, half the kingdom believed that Prince Chidi had valiantly fought off a band of cutthroats to protect the beautiful Rachel. In her small home, Rachel sat at the worn wooden table, pushing her porridge around listlessly. Mr. Samuel watched his daughter with concern etched on his weathered face. "Rachel, my dear," he said gently, "you've barely touched your food. What troubles you?" Rachel sighed, setting down her spoon. "Oh, Papa, I'm so confused. Prince Oho offers wealth and security, but his demeanor, it unsettles me. And Prince Chidi is kind and genuine, but if what Prince Oho says is true about the danger—" Mr. Samuel reached across the table, patting her hand. "Trust your instincts, child. They've served you well so far." Their conversation was interrupted by a knock at the door. Rachel opened it to find a royal messenger resplendent in the palace livery. "Miss Rachel," the messenger announced with a bow, "His Majesty King Alfred requests your presence at the palace this afternoon. A carriage will be sent for you." Rachel's eyes widened in surprise. "The king? But why?" The messenger simply shrugged. "I merely deliver the messages, miss. Will you attend?" Rachel looked back at her father, who nodded encouragingly. "Yes," she said, turning back to the messenger. "Please inform His Majesty that I am honored by the invitation and will be there." As the messenger departed, Rachel felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation. What could the king possibly want with her? Meanwhile, in the opulent royal chambers, Queen Deborah paced like a caged tigress. Prince Oho lounged on a velvet chaise, watching his mother with a mixture of amusement and irritation. "This is unacceptable," Queen Deborah hissed. "That girl should be falling at your feet by now. Instead, she continues to entertain that soft-hearted fool Chidi." Oho yawned, examining his perfectly manicured nails. "Patience, mother. Rachel will see reason soon enough. No woman can resist the allure of wealth and power for long." Queen Deborah stopped pacing, a cunning gleam in her eye. "Perhaps we need to help her see reason. I have connections in the village. We could arrange for some misfortune to befall her father. Nothing too severe, of course, just enough to remind Rachel of how precarious their situation is and how much she needs your protection." For a moment, a flicker of hesitation crossed Oho's face. Then it was gone, replaced by cold determination. "Do what you must, mother. The throne will be mine, one way or another." As this dark plot was being hatched, Prince Chidi was in the palace library, poring over ancient texts. He had been up most of the night, researching Adara's laws and customs, searching for a way to resolve the succession issue without resorting to this marriage contest. Queen Melissa found her son there, his eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep. "Chidi, my dear," she said softly, "you must rest. You can't solve all the kingdom's problems in one night." Chidi looked up, offering his mother a tired smile. "I know, mother, but something about this whole situation feels wrong. There must be a better way." Queen Melissa sat beside her son, her gentle hand on his arm. "Sometimes, my son, the best solutions are the simplest. Have you considered that perhaps this contest, as unconventional as it may be, could lead to a happy outcome? I've seen the way you look at Rachel." Chidi sighed, closing the dusty tome before him. "Rachel is special, mother. Kind, intelligent, and strong. But I don't want to pressure her or rush into anything. The future of Adara is at stake. And that, my dear," Queen Melissa said with a knowing smile, "is why you would make an excellent king." Their conversation was interrupted by a servant announcing that King Alfred had summoned Rachel to the palace. Chidi's eyebrows rose in surprise. What was his father planning? Date. As afternoon approached, Rachel found herself in a royal carriage heading towards the palace. She had dressed in her best clothes, a simple but well-made dress that had belonged to her mother. As the carriage passed through the village, Rachel couldn't help but notice the stares and whispers of her neighbors. In just a few days, she had gone from being a simple village girl to the subject of kingdom-wide speculation. At the palace, Rachel was escorted to a grand receiving room. King Alfred sat on his throne, looking old and tired, but with a sharp glint in his eye. To his right stood Queen Deborah, her face a mask of regal indifference. To his left was Queen Melissa, who offered Rachel a kind smile. Both princes were conspicuously absent. "Welcome, Rachel," King Alfred said, his voice carrying easily across the room. "I trust you know why you're here." Rachel curtsied deeply. "Your Majesty, I'm afraid I don't. I'm honored by your invitation, but I'm not sure what I've done to warrant it." King Alfred chuckled, a warm sound that put Rachel slightly at ease. "My dear, you've managed to capture the attention of both my sons. That's no small feat. I wanted to meet you myself, to see what all the fuss was about." Rachel felt her cheeks grow warm. "Your Majesty, I'm just a simple village girl. I never sought to come between your sons." "And yet here we are," King Alfred said, leaning forward slightly. "Tell me, Rachel, what do you think of my sons?" Rachel hesitated, aware of the Queen's keen gazes upon her. "They are both admirable in their own ways, Your Majesty. Prince Oho is confident and ambitious. Prince Chidi is kind and thoughtful, but I've known them only a short time." King Alfred nodded, seemingly pleased with her diplomatic answer. "And what of Adara? What do you think our kingdom needs in its next ruler?" This question caught Rachel off guard. She took a moment to gather her thoughts before answering. "Your Majesty, I believe Adara needs a ruler who cares deeply for its people. Someone who understands that true strength lies not in displays of power, but in acts of compassion and wisdom. A ruler who can balance tradition with progress and who isn't afraid to listen to those they govern." A heavy silence fell over the room. Queen Deborah's eyes narrowed dangerously, while Queen Melissa's smile widened. King Alfred leaned back in his throne, a thoughtful expression on his face. "Well spoken, Rachel," he said finally. "I can see why my sons are so taken with you. You may go now, but know that I'll be watching your interactions with Oho and Chidi with great interest." As Rachel was escorted out of the palace, her mind was whirling. She felt as though she had passed some sort of test, but to what end? Unknown to Rachel, her words had set in motion a series of events that would shake the very foundations of Adara. Queen Deborah, enraged by Rachel's implied preference for Chidi's qualities, was more determined than ever to see her son on the throne. Queen Melissa, heartened by Rachel's wisdom, resolved to support her son's gentle courtship. And King Alfred, watching it all unfold, began to wonder if perhaps the solution to Adara's succession lay not in his sons, but in the quiet strength of a village girl who understood the true meaning of leadership. As Rachel's carriage rolled back towards her village, the sun was setting over Adara, casting long shadows across the land. In those deepening shadows, plots were being hatched, alliances formed and broken, and the fate of a kingdom hung in the balance. The following days in Adara were a whirlwind of activity. Rachel found herself at the center of a storm she never asked for, torn between two princes and the future of a kingdom. Prince Oho continued his grand gestures, showering Rachel with expensive gifts and promises of a life of luxury. Prince Chidi, true to his nature, opted for quieter moments, walks in the village, helping Rachel with her chores, and engaging in deep conversations about life and the future of Adara. As the week progressed, Rachel's heart began to lean decidedly towards Chidi. His kindness, wisdom, and genuine care for others resonated with her own values. However, the constant whispers of danger and the need for protection, skillfully planted by Queen Deborah and Prince Oho, kept her from fully committing. One evening, as Rachel sat with her father discussing the events of the past week, a commotion outside caught their attention. They rushed to the door to find their small vegetable garden destroyed, their chickens scattered, and a crude message scratched into their door. "Choose wisely." Mr. Samuel's face paled. "Rachel, my dear, perhaps it's time to consider Prince Oho's offer. This is getting dangerous." Rachel, however, felt a spark of anger ignite within her. "No, Papa, this isn't right. Something about this whole situation feels wrong." As if on cue, both princes arrived at the scene, having been alerted by concerned neighbors. Oho was quick to use the incident to his advantage. "You see, Rachel," he said, his voice dripping with concern, "this is what I've been warning you about. You need my protection. Come to the palace where you'll be safe." Chidi, however, was quiet, his eyes scanning the scene thoughtfully. After a moment, he spoke. "Rachel, Mr. Samuel, I'm so sorry this has happened. Please, allow me to help you clean up and repair the damage." Without waiting for a response, Chidi removed his fine jacket and began gathering the scattered vegetables. His actions spoke louder than any words, and soon villagers joined in to help. As they worked, Chidi quietly approached Rachel. "I don't think this was a random act," he said in a low voice. "The timing is too convenient. I fear someone is trying to manipulate you." Rachel nodded, having come to the same conclusion. But who? And why? "I have my suspicions," Chidi replied, his eyes darting towards his brother, who stood apart from the cleanup efforts, looking uncomfortable and out of place. As night fell and the damage was mostly repaired, Rachel made a decision. She approached both princes, her head held high. "Your Highnesses," she said firmly, "I appreciate your concern and your offers, but I can't make a decision based on fear or manipulation. I need time to think, alone. Please, give me 3 days. After that, I'll give you my answer." Both princes agreed, though Oho did so reluctantly. As they left, Rachel couldn't help but notice the stark difference in their departures. Oho climbing into his ornate carriage, while Chidi walked back to the palace, stopping to chat with villagers along the way. The next 3 days were the most peaceful Rachel had experienced since this whirlwind began. She spent time helping her father, talking with villagers, and most importantly, thinking deeply about the future, not just her own, but that of Adara. On the morning of the 3rd day, a royal proclamation echoed through the kingdom. King Alfred was calling for an assembly in the town square. All were invited to attend, with a special summons for Rachel and her father. As Rachel and Mr. Samuel made their way to the square, they found it packed with what seemed like the entire kingdom. On a raised platform stood King Alfred, looking regal despite his age. Flanking him were Queen Deborah and Queen Melissa, and before him stood Prince Oho and Prince Chidi. King Alfred raised his hands, and a hush fell over the crowd. "People of Adara," his voice rang out, "we stand at a crossroads. The future of our kingdom hangs in the balance. I had thought to leave the choice of my successor to chance and the whims of young love. But recent events have shown me the folly of such a plan." A murmur ran through the crowd. Rachel felt her heart racing. What was about to happen? "I call forward Rachel, daughter of Samuel," King Alfred continued. With trembling legs, Rachel made her way through the parting crowd and climbed the steps to the platform. She curtsied before the king, acutely aware of all eyes upon her. "Rachel," King Alfred said, his voice softer now, "you have shown wisdom beyond your years. In the face of manipulation and threats, you have remained true to your principles. You spoke of what Adara needs in a ruler: compassion, wisdom, and a deep care for the people. I ask you now, before all of Adara, who do you believe best embodies these qualities?" Rachel's mind raced. This wasn't just about her choice between 2 suitors anymore. The fate of the kingdom rested on her words. She took a deep breath, centering herself, and then spoke from her heart. "Your Majesty, people of Adara," she began, her clear voice carrying across the hushed square, "I have given this much thought. While both princes have admirable qualities, I believe the one who truly embodies the spirit of leadership that Adara needs is Prince Chidi." A gasp went up from the crowd. Queen Deborah's face contorted with rage, while Queen Melissa beamed with pride. Oho's hand moved to the hilt of his sword, but a sharp look from King Alfred stopped him. Rachel continued, her voice growing stronger. Prince Chidi has shown not just kindness, but a deep understanding of the people's needs. He listens, he cares, and he's not afraid to work alongside those he would rule. These are the qualities of a true leader. King Alfred nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. Well said, Rachel, and I quite agree. He turned to address the crowd. People of Adara, I name Prince Chidi as my successor. The square erupted in cheers. Chidi, looking stunned, stepped forward. Father, I'm honored. But what of your decree? I haven't married or produced an heir. King Alfred chuckled. Sometimes, my son, the old ways must give way to new wisdom. You will make a fine king, married or not. Though, he added with a twinkle in his eye, I have a feeling that may change soon enough. As the crowd celebrated, Oho, his face dark with fury, stormed off the platform. Queen Deborah made to follow him, but King Alfred's voice stopped her. Deborah, you and I have much to discuss about recent events. I suggest you reconsider any plans for departure. In the joyous chaos that followed, Chidi made his way to Rachel. Taking her hands in his, he spoke softly. Rachel, you've given me not just a kingdom, but your heart as well. If you'll have me, I'd be honored to have you rule by my side, not as a prize to be won, but as an equal partner. Tears of joy streaming down her face, Rachel nodded. Yes, Chidi. 1,000 times yes. As Chidi and Rachel embraced, the crowds cheered even louder. Mr. Samuel wiped a tear from his eye, pride and joy evident on his face. And King Alfred, watching it all unfold, felt a deep sense of peace. Adara's future was in good hands. Or so he thought. In the days that followed, many changes came to Adara. Oho wasn't given up, so as Queen Deborah. Does Prince Chidi get to rule? Or does something mysterious happen to him and Rachel?
Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed watching. Kindly click the subscribe button, like, comment, and share this video. Watch out for more intriguing and eye-catching videos from your favorite YouTube channel.